So I am Sarah Beth Burke. I'm thrilled to have you here. This is my series, Becoming More Than Your Title, where I talk to really interesting professionals from all different backgrounds and industries about how are they more than their job title? Because what does a job title even mean anymore, whether you work inside of an organization or you work for yourself? Just being a founder, CEO, designer, strategist, consultant, those are pretty broad terms. And yet, as humans, we are so much more than our job titles. We have a lot of professional identities that are baked in, and that's what I like to explore. So today, my guest is Natalya, and she founded and leads Life by Design, which is a really special consulting, coaching, well-being organization. I'm going to have her explain so much more about that because it is very hybrid, and I don't think she totally realized that, and we're going to dig in. I am a researcher on hybrid professional identity. So that's really what I dig into in these conversations. I explore the notion that people have multiple identities and work at the intersection of them. So intersectionality is where things get interesting because you are the sum of your different identities. You're more than one identity. And in that intersection, you actually have a competitive advantage, a unique value. And for many people, they've never expressed, identified, or articulated this before. And it's their value prop. So that's the gift I bring to people, both through my work and through these conversations, is helping people hear and understand how they're hybrids. And if they're not fully aware of their hybridity, the work I do with people is to help them go through that journey of self-development and human identity development to really understand who are you, why do you do what you do, and when you can express that, so many things make sense. It's a meaning-making opportunity. So without further delay, I'm so excited to bring Natalya up for today's conversation. Hello, Natalya. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, I look forward to these every time I do one because I get to talk to the most interesting people. And first of all, tell us where you are right now in the world.
Right now in Barcelona.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I've met a lot of international friends, and talking to people outside of the US is always a treat. And I like to kick off our conversations in this series with the question, what do you do? Because that's how we start so many networking conversations. And it's a big question. So I'm going to throw that to you. Natalya, tell us, what do you do?
That is a big question. I could answer it in a simple way to start off, to kick off, see if that works. I would say I'm being and not doing, because doing, I do a lot of different things. But being, I'm trying to be myself and see who I truly am, and that resonates with everything I do. Does that work?
That's beautiful because, I mean, the being, right? We need to be before we do. And in everything I study and love to research, it's who are you? Start with who. And so that was a wonderful way to kick this off. But let's get a little more concrete. So I want to know what you're doing today, aside from just being, and I want to understand where you started, because you have a very interesting history of being more entrepreneurial and working in businesses before you started your own. So tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely, certainly. Well, I've been many things, I must say, and I did many things. And coming from Russia, from Soviet Union, I went to US and then Europe. And professionally, it was business development, sales, marketing, PR. And I must say the title back in the days was a very important thing to me. And I still remember I was working in Canary Islands in Tenerife in Spain, and a lady much more senior than me said, "What do you need a title for?" Actually, it just came up as I'm entering the show. It didn't, for me, it was so important because I worked so hard to have that title. But for her, it wasn't the case. It was all about how I resonated and what I did and was the value I was bringing to the company. And to that matter, what is the importance of the title? Actually, that's a question back
I
to you.
love this. No, people don't often throw that question back at me, so I'm taking it. It is such a powerful statement, right? Because I think we use titles as social organization tools to understand hierarchy and social order. And it's a way to stereotype people, right? And then for some people, they're using it as external validation. Well, I have X title of director and I have Y title of vice president, and they assign their own internal value to a title. But the bigger question at the end of the day is, who are you outside of your job title? Because as humans, we're going to change job titles many times. We're going to change jobs many times. So the part that I realized I needed to find for me, and that's why I started this work, who am I when I don't have a job title, but I'm still bringing work and value into the world? I never thought to ask myself that question before. So that is the opportunity, is actually you self-validate who you want to be. And for my purposes, that's where the hybridity came through. I was like, who am I as the sum of all these different identities I have? And I never, ever, ever thought of that. It was like a groundbreaking question. So thanks for throwing that back to me. What do you think about that?
I think that as we go through life and through the career, because this is what we're expected to do and expected to have. We're expected to have a title. We expected to grow in the career ladder. We expected to be X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares about who we truly are and what we want to do? And God forbid we want to do too many different things, because actually that's where our geniuses are and that's where the talents and the passions are. But the society, as you said, throws us into the box and it puts the label on it, the title, because this is how it's much easier to understand what that person does and who he actually or she actually is. The simple thing by giving a title, but that doesn't combine the value. It definitely is not. It's like a performance KPI and a measurement. Are you measuring yourself and your value by how you perform? Is the same thing as, are you measuring your value by your title? And that's quite limiting because we are so many things.
100% agree. We are limiting ourselves by the value we put on a title. I'm just restating back what you said because it was perfect. And so the truth to break free from that, I think, is you have to figure yourself out. You have to name and define who you want to be and how you see yourself, to even start the path of how do you share your passions? How do you show up in your work the way that you want to be? That's my own philosophy now. I think it's a really different frame, and it's an empowering frame. Yeah. And I think you work with people on that too. I want to jump into what you're doing today, which is life by design. And even just the way you've named your business is about, empowering people to be the designers and use intentionality. And I know you use a lot of well-being practices. You have certifications in all kinds of coaching and training and energy work. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think what you are doing in Life by Design is a result of your hybridity. So tell us about Life by Design.
Well, Life by Design started when I was at the sort of a peak on my career, professional career, being the general manager of a company that I had the share in, that I was running with my business partner. And I loved the company. I loved what I did. But at that moment, I felt so drained and overwhelmed, and in many ways dissatisfied with what the outcome of all that work was. And most importantly, disconnected with my true self, whatever that identity was.
Yes.
Maybe you might call it identity crisis. Well, I can say I love being general manager because it combines so many different things, so many different roles in one title, which is fine. But that state I was at, basically I had to do something about it. And I went through the whole coaching certification and learning to actually understand who I truly was, the whole part, and then followed by the why and the how and all that great stuff that we're taught, right?
Yes.
And so Life by Design was born, and it was really all about helping people to be the creators of their lives. And it all starts with the who. So going really deep to the essence of who we are and why we do the things we do and why we think and feel what we do, and sort of keep peeling the onion. So maybe there is a title, but I'm sure there are plenty more.
Yes. And it's interconnected. I mean, I think the clues of what we love to do and why we do it and who we do it for all interconnects back to who are we, right? So it's not like there's an order or sequence. I think I talk about it like a three-legged stool. You need to know your why, and you need to know your interests and your passions, your expertise, and who are you is in conjunction. So I love how you were explaining this investigation of doing the assessments, or rather the certifications, and trying to figure yourself out so you could put Life by Design together and provide value for the people you want to serve.
Yeah, it's like from the inside out, and it's important to do what you preach, sort of, or try it out, because otherwise, and so we are many different things in any given moment. I was told very often that I'm a great adapter or a chameleon, because I sort of change colors and adapt my behaviors to whatever is the situational and is expected, etc. But which is all great, but knowing that authenticity part, the who part, and that also changes. We are not who we were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Marriages change, job titles change, we change, and that's okay. Yeah, as long as you have that awareness. So and it's
Yes.
hard to catch up with sometimes.
Yes, it's part of being in the world, is doing the things you do and then reflecting back, who am I now? What shifted and changed? Your interests, your talents, your business path is changing. So that means it reflects back on you. I think there's a lot of symbiosis there. I do think, and this is based on identity research, some identities stay with us for a lifetime, some are fixed, and others are fluid and dynamic. And this context can change in the moment. Right now, you and I are having a professional conversation, but when we get offline, I might be different if I take a phone call with a friend or talk to my neighbor. So we're constantly doing this shape shifting. Going back to this word you've been using, core, I want to play with that for a moment. I do believe there are core professional identities that are our truth. Like, they're the professional identities we show up with the most. They really make us who we are in our work. And that those become threads across a lot of our work. So even if our job titles change or we get new expertise, there are elements that stay consistent. And to me, that's what keeps creating the hybridity. So for me, I see creative, like being an artist and a designer and a researcher, as baked into a lot of my old jobs and job titles, but I never saw that. I had to find my core professional identities to understand and reveal the true me. Does that ring a bell with you? Do you see anything like that in your own experience?
That's a good question. And the question I would like to ask you back, though, it
Yeah,
might
tell
be
me.
off topic. Well, it's still the same topic. What is your title?
So when I'm working at the intersection of being this artist, designer, researcher, and educator, because those are my four core that are my foundation, I've realized I'm a creative disruptor. That's my hybrid title. And I created that for myself kind of by design, because I realized, who am I? I need a name and a label, both for myself to have sort of an anchor, but also when I talk to people, I need to be able to frame who I am, how I see myself, to make meaning for other people. And when I had this revelation of, okay, I can be Sarah Beth and use my formal job title, director of programs, but I'm also Sarah Beth, the creative disruptor. Using them, I use them together. I'd say I'm Sarah Beth, this director, but I call myself a creative disruptor because, and I'd finish the sentence. It helped them see me differently, because a director of programs was so generic. They kind of made assumptions. It didn't really reveal my uniqueness. But adding the creative disruptor became more of a conversation point of intrigue, and it sparked a new recognition of who I really am. So that for me taught me, if I can create a way to name my own professional identity, my hybrid professional identity, it really helps me navigate the world. People start to understand me differently. So that's why I was asking you about what are the core parts of Natalya in being the founder of Life by Design? There are these elements of your truth that you are weaving together, and that's what's making you unique in this work. And I'm curious if you've thought about that before.
That's a good question. I keep on thinking a challenger, a challenging status quo, and then I came up with a chief energy officer, but that's
Yeah.
for fun, and it's because it relates to energy, and that's what I do. They're helping people to navigate with their energy, and I can it's I cannot just say I'm a coach or I'm a trainer or I'm this and that and the other. It's too limiting. It's
Yes.
too limiting. I don't know.
You're resonating on so many things I hear other people say. I mean, essentially, this is where the work begins, and why I think the process I'm bringing into the world is so important, because no one's been taught how to do this. And so what you just said of I'm more than the coach and the trainer and the consultant, but you're also this energy worker. And I love that you came up with another identity, the challenger. This brainstorm is the beginning. It's starting to peel those layers of the onion. And by
Yeah.
putting these words down, then we can actually say which ones are the core. And I usually tell people 2, 3, or 4 are your limit. And maybe those 2 or 3 or 4 go into a Venn diagram. And then we can start to see what's the interconnection, what's the hybridity emerging out of those 3. So the
Oh,
challenger, energy worker, and coach might be your core. I don't know.
me neither. You want to find out by the end of this call?
This is beautiful, because you're at this stage, Natalya, where I call it emerging hybridity. You've probably been sensing inside of yourself, I don't know for how long, but at least since you left the chocolate factory job, because you even mentioned that job was a point where you felt dissatisfied, you were burned out, you were underwhelmed, you wanted more. And it's in those moments, maybe it's an identity crisis of like, well, who am I and who do I want to be? We go through this reckoning of, well, what is my identity? How do I see myself? What do I want to be doing instead? And you get to choose. I mean, I think that's the design part of what you are working on. And the way you put those parts together into some wonderful package or service or business is your hybrid nature. It's your true unique value.
Yeah, and it's good to know that it's okay and that I'm normal and not some out of the box person that is just creating disorder, wherever I go, which some
Yeah.
people perceive it that way. But again, I'm here to challenge status quo. And that's what I do also with my clients. So they know there's more out there than just what they see.
Yes.
What they know, what
Completely.
they know.
I meet more people that feel the way you feel of you think you're abnormal, you don't fit in a box, but most people are feeling this tension between different identities, and they're like, I don't know what to do about it. So I'm curious, when you talk to other people and tell them about these different certifications and energy work and well-being that you do, what do they think of you? How do other people interpret who you are? What do you see them saying about you?
That's a good question. And I think it depends on the people.
Yeah.
Some people still want to put me in the box
Yes.
just because it's easier for them.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, I don't care about the opinion of others. So I must say I've evolved greatly since, what was it, like 18 years ago, when that lady told me at the job about my title, and who cares? It doesn't matter, because for me, I was fighting to have that title. I mean, that's what the career letter is for, to have the title and be validated.
Yeah.
And now I actually don't want one.
That's a big statement.
And I don't want to be put in the box of that title. I'm the person that creates value in many different ways. And depending on what people or organizations need, I provide and tailor that.
Yes. And that's beautiful. I think that's what a lot of us are searching and trying to achieve is what value can we bring into the world and how can we best apply it and transform situations, organizations, humans. And at some point, though, because it's such a big world and there's so many people, we have to get more detailed and descriptive of how are you providing value versus me versus anybody else online. And I think that's where it gets tricky, right? Because how do you define that? Have you created ways that you've figured it out, or how do you do that right now?
I think I'm being me and putting out there, if you make it concrete in terms of content,
Yeah.
call it marketing content,
Yeah.
in terms of pointing out things that resonate with me, it's really that being
Yes.
and helping other people and teams to do the same, because the only way we can increase well-being, productivity, sense of flow, satisfaction, and fulfillment is by increasing our energy resonance and by connecting to ourselves and the others and moving away from that ego thing, which title is also identified with,
Yes.
into the place of that you don't judge people by title, you don't judge people by performance, you see them for who they are and you facilitate more of that in them or in the
I
team.
love that. That rung really true for me, that you see people for who they are and then facilitate more of that. Do you have tools that you use to help people with that? Because I have my own way of thinking about that and doing it, but I'm curious what you're putting out there.
Well, we start with energy leadership assessment, which is a beautiful tool. It's nothing like any other of those tests and personality tests. You know, personality is not permanent, but it really focuses on understanding where you are in terms of energy level, your consciousness, your leadership style, your everything. When everything is great, because when everything is good, we behave in a certain way and we think in a certain way.
Yes.
But when people get under stress and they get that anxiety and worry and frustration and all of that, they think and feel differently and they act differently. And the assessment shows them how they are under stress when everything is not going great. And you can see a big difference that our energy taps and it basically puts us in a space where we are not productive and we are not able to make great decisions. And we're coming across like that as well, because, you know, energy attracts like energy and it resonates, and you can see how the person is feeling and being in the moment. It comes. So the whole idea is to move people up, and I use various tools to really go deep into understanding why they are where they are and what can shift them and how they can experience life, work, and everything differently and show up differently as well.
That is really important work. I'm glad that you have those tools. I think energy is the basis. I've learned in this identity work too, that when you are feeling your best, so you have that assessment, I need to take that now with you, but when people are feeling their best and they're in that flow, I've learned they're actually in their hybrid identity and it's unconscious. They don't see how they're merging their identities together. So we start with, when are you feeling your best? Then we convert it into actions. I say, well, okay, but what are the parts of things that you're doing? And then we get curious about what are the identities of those actions. So if someone's like, I love writing stories, is the identity of that being a storyteller? Maybe it's the marketer, maybe it's the, poet. They need to find the identity word that feels right to them. And then your other part here, I just want to echo, is the resonance. I've really noticed when people say out loud these different identity words that might be who they are, they'll know it when they say it because they feel it in their body. There's that embodiment. So if I call myself a visionary, does that feel right for me? It's like I have to try it on. But when I call myself a creative disruptor, I feel solid. Like I got chills in my body. I'm like, there's such certainty that that's my truth. And I didn't know those were the words I need to say to find my true identity, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Definitely, we have to connect to how we feel in the body, and that's part of, we're holistic people. Whatever we think and we feel, and the gut and the heart, all of that is pretty much combined and connected. So, and if people can be more connected to themselves, to tap into that intuition,
Yeah.
and listen to it more. And like a simple question, what gives you energy? What do
Yeah.
you love doing? Like you said,
Yeah.
it will answer so many questions. If you
Mhm.
start from the clean sheet, what do you want to take with you? What do you want to do? Do you really need all of that?
Right.
If you had no fears and no responsibilities, what do you really want to do? How do you ideally see that?
Yes.
And then lots of people just leave that baggage behind. And the question is, do you want to still keep dragging it, or is it draining you?
Yes. Well, I
Yeah.
love this too, because when we were doing our kind of prep question before we went live, I asked you a little bit about who are you, at the intersections of your identities? Who are you when you're blending your identities together? And, you looked at me and you're like, I've never thought about that. And that's typically the response I get, because starting at that level is just not, we don't have the awareness. And so I actually learned I have to shift that question completely to, when do you feel your best? And we start with those kinds of levels of energy. And then we work back into, now, who are you when you feel your best? Because there's two sides of that puzzle. So that's how I play with this.
That's beautiful. Well, I love connecting people. I'm at my best connecting and sharing
Yeah.
and supporting.
Natalya, we're getting close to the end of our time together. Is there anything else you want to share with people about who you are and what you do in Life by Design?
Well, who I am, I'm Natalya. I help people and organizations be at their best and live to that full potential and be full of energy and have that sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and success, whatever success means to them. Be a creator if
Yeah.
you need a title.
Yes. You are like the inspirer of people's potential. Maybe that's an identity in your intersections. We'll have to play with that later.
Yeah, let's do a session separately.
I know, because this is big work. And I've got a new course called Brand Your Hybrid Identity for this exact reason, because I realize there is a whole process to it, and it's just helping people work through it. So yeah, you and I were kind of touching on it, and just, I love also hearing where people are in the moment. And the more I've talked to people, the more I've realized, Natalya, it's when we share what we're going through in our professional identity, what we've, struggled with in our career journey of being told to fit in a box and struggling to find where we belong or who we are and who we want to be, we need to hear these stories from each other. So that's why I started doing these LinkedIn Lives. So thank you for everything you've told us today about yourself, the questions you're still trying to answer, and just playing with these ideas of tracing our core. I think that was one of the takeaways I had from our conversation today.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to share it with the world.
Yes. I want to make sure people can find you. So tell us about your website.
Well, lifebydesign-academy.com and all sorts of channels, social media channels, just with my name on it, Natalya Berdikyan. I'm sure it will come up. And I look forward to connecting with all of you and challenging questions, questioning your identity and who you are and your core and your essence to get you to a higher level.
Absolutely. Follow Natalya on LinkedIn, get on her email, on her website. She has a lot of tools and energy work and well-being for the workplace and for talent. And if you're curious about how you're more than your title, go to my website, morethanmytitle.com. Likewise, courses, tools, resources, lots of free handouts, or follow me on social at More Than My Title. Natalya, it has been my pleasure today to get this time with you. So thank you for everything you shared, and we'll sign off. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.